The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruchika Bindra, and this week on #NoFilter, we are talking about one of the most important aspects of a teenager's lives, the world of bullying. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of #NoFilter. We have with us a very special guest today, 18-year-old Brittany Cristantos. She is here to talk about her book, I Am Not Your Average Teen. Very, very cool. So welcome to our show. It's so nice to have you on. I also have our teen panelists with us to talk about bullying. We have Matthew, we have Cassandra, and we have Olivia. Welcome. So Brittany, what's it like to release a book at 18?
It's amazing. It's an amazing journey to finally do something and, know that you're making a difference.
When you wrote the book, was it something you wrote within a summer? Was it something that you thought about for a while?
No, I wrote that book at 15. I decided one day that my story can really relate and inspire other people. And it's been a big process.
Okay, and so when you were writing this, I know one of the topics in your book which really stood out to us was on bullying. So why is it such an important aspect for teenagers? Why is this topic of bullying something that we see always and on every psychological study, media study related to teens, we have the word bullying always there? Why?
Because there's so much going on. Everyone's trying to, trying to be somebody in this world, and everyone doesn't feel like they're good enough. And so the reason why it's called I'm Not Your Average Teen is because there's so much bullying, and there's cliques, there's outcasts, there's popular people, and there's Twitter, and there's social media, and so many people are tweeting about each other, and, being mean to each other.
Trying to create some sort of conflict, or sort of trying to build that dynamic between which group is with which group.
What groups do I belong in? What group should I sit with for lunch?
So have you guys ever experienced any sort of bullying?
Yeah, definitely. When you go to school, like you were saying with the cliques, it's so obvious which clique is which. And it's not even like, if you feel like you don't fit in with them, sometimes it's not even direct bullying, like you can't sit with us, it's just the looks you'll get. That's bullying too, and people don't realize that. But I've experienced bullying, and it was mostly at the beginning of grade 9. People were very trying to make friends. I didn't have many friends at school, and people were mean. Like, people were really mean in grade 9.
They're so mean.
Yeah, and people still are, but I found the older you get, it's not direct bullying, it's just more the looks and stuff like that.
It's the looks and the laughter and the whispers in the hallway, look at her outfit.
Yeah.
And people are also more self-conscious right now with all these bullying laws that are in effect and these anti-bullying campaigns. I think bullying is done more subliminally, whereas back in the day, where bullying wasn't so directly addressed as often, it was more like, someone would punch you in the back, or someone would beat you up at recess. And now we see it, as you guys said, there's more of a shift in teenage bullying. I find it's more by groupism. I think that's the right way we would word it. So did you ever experience that?
I do. There used to be a site called Formspring. I don't know if you guys ever remember that, but when I was in grade 9, that site was up, and people would write horrible things like, you're so ugly, you're so fake.
About different people in school?
Yeah, different people in school. But my experience was people would write, you're so ugly, you're so fake, you're dumb, you're stupid. So I actually experienced that in grade 9, but that site, I don't know if they still have that anymore, but...
And what was sort of how did you deal with it mentally? Were you able to, were you it's not a big deal?
In the beginning, it really affected me, which led me to depression and things like thoughts where I thought I wasn't good enough, but that's what really set me to begin this journey of finding myself.
And so in your book, when you talk about bullying, what are the kinds of things you talk about?
I talk about basically Twitter, Instagram. Nowadays people are writing direct messages on Instagram, their captions, like, she's so ugly, or did you see her? And then on Twitter, I wrote a lot about subtweeting. People are writing not directly, but they're writing about each other and saying oh, did you see her in class today? So there's a lot of that going on.
Subtweeting. Okay, so this is something I don't think a lot of our viewers know about. So can you guys explain it to me? Subtweeting is, I guess, sort of an indirect form of bullying now that's happening with cyberbullying. So what is it? What does it mean to subtweet?
Yeah, it's sort of like speaking about somebody behind their back, but over social media. So instead of saying, this person saying their name did this, this, and this, or I feel this, this, and this about that person, you talk about a specific person but don't say who they are and pretty much just mention it, and of course people that you're close with that you've mentioned it about, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know who that is, but you yourself, you might not know that's about you because you haven't been mentioned in it, you're a specific name.
Okay, so it's like the butt of a joke, but you just kind of, you're the last person to find out about it if you do.
Yeah.
Okay, and do you guys feel like the older you get as teenagers, like especially even with Brittany, you wrote this book 15 up till 18 now, do you sort of go in hindsight and say, okay, I could have dealt with it differently that way, or do you feel like there's never like an easy way to deal with it?
There's obviously never an easy way to deal with people talking about you and calling you names, because no matter what, that kid who is bullied or gets name called, she or he's gonna go home that night and think about it, and it's gonna hurt them no matter what. But the way I dealt with it is I shake it off. It's not me. It's names, it's words that other people created about me, and so that really helped me in grade 10 when I was 15, and people were making fun of me, starting rumors, and I was like, you know what? This is not me. I'm gonna shake it off, and I'm gonna write this book, and I'm gonna.
You have to channel sort of your energy in the right place, right?
Sure.
Otherwise, it can really beat you down.
Oh, it can definitely.
Did you use any sort of, or even any of you guys, have you guys ever resorted to like any sort of therapy, or has anybody ever considered like, is it easy to trust someone? Like if you feel like you were getting bullying on the website, like would you call up your best friend? Would you go tell your parents? Like, is it hard for teenagers to sort of, I guess, A, accept that they're being in some way bullied, and B, like that they need help for it, or like it needs to stop?
They definitely tell you at school to, tell your teachers, tell your principal, but that's a hard thing to do because usually that makes the bullying worse. So I was lucky, I have my mom to talk to, so if anything ever happened at school, I would usually just show my mom and she'd talk me through and say, we'd never directly cause a problem about it, but my mom would say, that's not you, when someone talks bad about you, it's more of a reflection on that person, not you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Okay. Did you do the same thing, Brittany, or did you resort to any sort of kind of external help via your family?
I did. I asked for help. I think it was my aunt, I was like, you know what, I'm not doing well, I'm not happy. And so she found me like the right coach, mentor to talk to about this. And so I told her all my feelings and everything. And the one thing she actually told me to do was get a journal and write your feelings. And that's actually what led me to this book, because I learned that words give you a voice. Like if you're going through this and you're being bullied, you can actually take a journal out and write, I'm not happy today, so-and-so said I'm stupid. And those words come out, and it's actually therapy to the kid.
Pen is mightier than the sword, I always say that, right? So the words you put down can either kill you or they can help you. So I'm glad that you used it kind of as a source of de-stress. Have you guys ever thought about cyberbullying today versus how bullying must have been a few years before? Like when you guys were younger, bullying has obviously changed throughout, right? Have you guys ever gone in hindsight and said, oh my God, it must have been harder back then because it was more of a physical bullying, and today it's more of a word bullying?
Well, I think it's a lot harder now because all it takes is one person to say one thing on Twitter and then 5 people to retweet it. And
okay, hold that thought because you just gave me an idea. We will be right back after the break where we get into cyberbullying for today. Welcome back to #NoFilter, everyone. I'm Ruchika Binder. We were talking before the break about bullying and how it is today. And one of the most important changes in bullying, as we all know, is the world of cyberbullying. Bullying is 24/7 now. Before, you could go home, you were done, you're bullying in high school, you got a bit of a space. Today, it's 24/7. The social world never closes. So Matthew, cyberbullying.
Well, I mean, what I was going to say is when you post something on Twitter, like a status or a video or whatever, all it takes is, if everyone has, let's say just for example, 200 followers, I'm not good at math, but if 5 people retweet it, that's already 1,000 people that have seen that video specifically. If all the followers, I told you, I didn't even think of the math. Like, I could totally be wrong. Like, no, I'm telling you, if every follower sees the thing that you've retweeted, everybody sees it, and then more people see it, and then it's like, it doesn't go away.
It's a chain form of bullying.
Yeah,
It's a chain.
It's a chain.
Whereas if you're at school and you speak about it, then it only goes as fast as words can travel, but Twitter travels a lot quicker because people can see it in a snap.
What about on Instagram, Brittany? Do you talk about, or have you experienced sort of bullying on Instagram? How does that work? Because that's a bit different, right? That's more with pictures versus Twitter is more with words.
It's different because it's a picture and it's a caption, so it depends on the caption, right?
Right.
Because Twitter's it's more direct because you can write anything you want every second. And like I feel like on Instagram people are like very careful what they say, but you would find the few people writing something you're like, oh, that sounds like they're talking about me, right?
Right, and then you still kind of can't pick it up
And
always.
you don't have proof, so if you say that to the person, like, why did you say that? They're going to be like,
I never said it directly.
It
You
wasn't
can't
about
prove
you?
it. Right, which I think is the problem as well with cyberbullying. And I know with the death of Amanda Todd in Canada a few years ago, that's when the cyberbullying law came into effect, right? Because she was bullied as she went through different schools. She was bullied, especially online. You know, she was dating somebody. She leaked out. I guess he leaked out some pictures of her, and it continued. And so the thing with cyberbullying is it never stops. And he was making different accounts, and he was, you know, showing these pictures. So I think for a lot of women, there's a reason why we say the rates of cyberbullying are more stronger for women than they are for men. Olivia, do you think there's a reason specifically for it?
I think women are always kind of pinpointed in social media, not like mainly because of the way we look. People will judge us for the way we look, whether we're skinny,
Skinnier.
thick, tall, short, what we wear, what we don't wear, whether we're wearing too much, whether we're wearing too little. It all relates back to the bullying.
And I think stalking, right? When I think of cyberbullying, the first thing that comes to me is a lot of people complain about having stalkers, right? People that create different accounts and follow you, and people that threaten you. You know, maybe one time you sent like a picture of yourself, you know, as a girl, and you're a teen and you're naive and you don't know that, and now this has followed you. So like, what would you recommend to somebody going through a situation like Amanda Todd did, right?
I say ask for help. Don't be afraid to tell someone what you're going through. And say to them, or your teacher, your mother, your friend, or a mentor, somebody that you trust, tell them, I'm going through this, people are making fun of me, and accept the fact that you're feeling this way, right? Don't hide it. Don't think that it's a bad thing.
And I think that's a huge thing. A lot of people that go through bullying, they don't realize they're necessarily feeling the way they're feeling till it's a little bit too late. I remember, well, when I used to go to school, cyberbullying wasn't as strong at that point, but I remember in grade 9, I was sort of, you know, darker than all my friends, and I was sort of chubbier than all my friends, and I used to always get bullied by guys all the time, and I didn't realize that was bullying. I didn't realize, like, you know, being left in the corner, not invited to play, or sort of being, you know, told like, oh, well, you're too big, you can't play this sport because you're going to take too long if you're in our team. I didn't realize that was bullying, and I would go home and I'm like, no, like, maybe it's me or maybe it's not me, you know, and then I stopped eating and I stopped kind of totally not wanting to go out until I finally realized, like, I think there's something wrong here. And then you don't want to admit it to yourself. Forget admitting it to somebody else. I think the first step, as you said, is realizing it to yourself, right? And getting that help.
For me, like, I was in the popular group, so I wasn't necessarily the outcast, but I was sitting in the atrium. I remember, like, the hallway of our school with my popular clique, and they're all laughing at different people in the hallway, saying, like, oh, did you see her outfit? And I just thought to myself, it's like you said, I realized to myself that this is so not me. So I got up, I remember I got up, I went to the washroom, I shook it off, and I was like, you know what, starting tomorrow, I need to make a change. I need to find better friends, people who don't laugh in the hallway, first of all, and people who understand me. So like you said, like being in the popular group, actually, I experienced my own kind of bullying.
Which a lot of people wouldn't think of, right? They'd always think if you're in the corner, you'd be bullied. But it's true. I think when you're equally in the limelight, there's that much success, but there's that much criticism and flack that comes with
there's
it, right?
a leader in the group, and then there's the two girls who listen to everything they say, and the girls who laugh because they don't actually think it's funny, but because they're supposed to laugh.
They're part of the clique.
Fake, yeah, you're being fake. You're playing a role. I always say this, you're playing a role that is not who you are.
Which is like bullying cliques, right? Which I think exists, and which exists on cyberbullying too, as you said. If you tweet to 7 and 10 of your friends and they're retweeting it, it's become sort of a clique of sort of humiliation. I know we always talk about victims and their bullying, but why do you think bullies bully?
I think they're insecure about themselves,
Definitely.
honestly. I think that they don't get enough attention at home or elsewhere. And then when they come to school, picking on someone else makes them feel more powerful. So if I, you know, say something mean to you, it means that I'm better.
It's a power struggle.
Yeah, I think it's more of a power thing.
It's
Or maybe-
insecurities.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Maybe they even get bullied at home, and they're just letting their anger out on others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and
by
I don't mean
parents
to
and
seem
stuff?
like harsh or anything, but a lot of people, they can bully because not for some like deep-rooted issue, but because people can. Like, you can say whatever you want to people, and some people just enjoy power. It's not necessarily that they feel powerless in another situation and they need to make up for it at school. But they could literally just be like, you know what? I want to feel powerful. I can say these things, so I will say these things.
I need that
And there's
attention,
nothing you
and
can do to
I
stop
feel
it.
strong about it. Like on Twitter, there's no direct cyber police that's going to come and say you can't do this.
Yeah,
or
for sure.
You can't say this, right? So do you feel as well like when you were in the popular group and people kind of did this subliminal
Yeah.
bullying, do you feel it's a power struggle?
It definitely is. I remember there's actually one girl who was very insecure with herself. She was jealous of every single person. And so there's that person, like you said, the jealousy. They don't know who they are. And because they don't know who they are, and there's perceptions. You go home and you have a life that's so different from school.
Exactly.
And that life is awful. And you go home to, like, let's say, like, families who, I don't know, abusive parents and people, or whatever it is, and you go to school and you're completely different and you're hurting others because you don't feel good with it yourself. You don't feel confident and you don't feel powerful.
You get to
So-
play a role, right? You get to be somebody different, whether you're getting bullied at home or,
Yeah.
as you guys said, it could be that you have a perfectly normal life at home, but you have nothing going. You know, you're lacking some sort of attention because obviously somebody who's in the role of bullying is in the role of somebody that wants power, that wants to have an upper hand. And, you know, some people assume power is exactly that, right? It's by putting somebody else down to feel good. And I think what's important is that a lot of our teams watching the show as well realize that people that are bullying, there's a trait, there's something missing there. And, you know, help is not just for victims. I think people that realize maybe that they are bullies should maybe try to get, I think, that help too. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about what you can do to get help when you really need it. Stay tuned, everyone. Hi everyone, welcome back. We are talking about bullying, cyberbullying, cliques, gossiping, and what it really means to be a teen. I'm gonna say it's really hard. Honestly speaking, after this segment, I feel like there's a lot that I think teenagers go through, and I think bullying is a part of it. I was looking at the back of your book, and there's something
Yes.
that really stood out for me. I think this encompasses not just bullying, the life of a teenager really well, so I'm gonna read it for our viewers. It says, this is high school for you. We have the jocks, the cheerleaders, the dancers, the stoners, the wannabes, the goths, the hockey stars, the ones who spend their weekends watching The Walking Dead, the nerds, the losers, the weirdos. Then there's me, Britt Chrysantos, the outcast, the teenager who is not your average teen. So I think that's really, really cool. And I think, simply put, I thought about this on the break, everybody has said something mean, right, about someone in their life. And do we technically realize how something as simple as that could be taken to somebody else as a form of bullying? You know, if they're having a really bad day and you said something very simply, I guess mean, that you think is not a big deal, it's still a form of bullying to someone, right? I'm sure we've all said something
For sure.
mean once or twice.
And even if you think it's not a big deal what you said, it wasn't very direct, or if it was just a look, they carry that throughout the day. Because think about how many times someone's just made a comment or hasn't invited you somewhere. You think about it for like a long
sure you
time,
do.
like why did this happen? So I think a lot of us have said something mean before and then not realize the effect it's had.
You go home that night and you actually sleep on it, and it hurts for the bully and the victim.
I think for both, exactly. I think for the bully, it's a sense of like, oh, look, I got to do this today,
It
you know?
hurts your gut feeling.
Yeah,
You're like,
it hurts your
"Oh,
gut feeling
crap."
because you know deep down, I think, at some point that you've crossed the line. But I think either you're part of a clique, so you're part of a bullying clique, as you said, so, you know, you do things because you're with a leader. I think you do things because something is lacking within you. So what do you recommend? What tips can you give? Someone who's going through bullying and who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable directly going for help, you know, doesn't want to be the butt of a joke, doesn't want to have to report it on Facebook, doesn't want to have to go to their parents because their parents are going
Yeah.
to say, okay, get off social media, for example. What could you recommend?
I say, first of all, surround yourself with positive people, no matter what. If you were that girl that was just like me in the popular group, get out of that group. That's worse for you. Second of all, I say, shake it off. Stand up, and if you're being bullied directly, which doesn't really happen a lot, but if you are and someone's laughing in your face, stand up and look directly in their face and tell them how you feel. Be the bigger person. And if it's scary to do that, then don't worry. Take a journal and write how you feel. Because that journal, like I said before, is your friend. It seriously can be your friend
It
because
gives you a space.
it's sometimes it's hard to go to your guidance counselor and say, I'm not doing well, or I'm sad because so-and-so said this. It's a scary feeling.
And I think it's impressive that you decided to go to your aunt, and I think it's nice that you went to somebody and you got support, and you weren't one of those people that said, I'm just going to bottle it up, or I'm just going to write it and I'm not going to take action from it. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Do you guys sort of ever feel like volunteering, or have you guys ever thought about doing anything for bullying, any campaigns? Is there anything in your own way that you find you guys do?
There's often like campaigns run through the school, and I always like support those, but it's hard to get involved because you don't know how you can help, and I think
Right.
people should be more educated on how they can actually help people who are being bullied.
Yeah, and also it sounds like something small, but even like if you know that something wrong is happening, even just mentioning it, like, man, this isn't right, we shouldn't be doing this, because sometimes people will be bullying and they won't even think about the person's feelings when it's happening. So if you see something happening and you mention to the bully, if he's your friend or whatever, you say, man, you know that wasn't right, like, just don't do that. And the bully will be like, maybe think back a bit more about what he said, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to say, and maybe he'll apologize, maybe that's not realistic, but at least he'll think about what he did for the next time.
I think what I'm getting from this is A, communication. I think A, communicating with ourselves that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
B, communicating with someone close to us. C, if possible, communicating with someone that you know is partaking in something that's involving bullying. And I think besides just communication is realizing that it's a really big deal. To have a 15-year-old take her life because she's, having hate comments sent to her, like to me, that's absolutely sad, and it's ridiculous that we're losing such precious lives because people are, inflicting hate on each other. And I think another great idea is pick up a book like this, pick up a book that inspires you, start a journal. I think reading, I was reading an excerpt on your book, and it said, like, we've all said something mean, and it's true, and then you think about it. And I think even for people that don't realize that they're bullying, I think we need to step back a second. I think with today, with social media, with where we stand, we don't realize necessarily, tagging somebody else, tagging a quote, which is making fun of somebody else. That's really popular, I know. Facebook used to be really notorious for a lot of bullying, and that's gotten less now. Snapchat, a lot of people, screenshot people's snap pictures and then show it to all their friends, and it becomes a butt of a joke. So I think anytime we engage in any form of mockery, I think we're beginning to touch a very sensitive aspect, and we need to realize people are sensitive. Do you recommend one thing that a bully should do to stop bullying?
I say the first thing is don't look at people as if you're a loser, you're a nerd, you're weird, you're stupid. I say look at everyone as in high school, teenagers, as your friend. Stop separating each other for your clothes and your outfit choices.
So stop kind of judging.
Stop judging. Acceptance over judgment. I know that's so cheesy and people always say
No,
that,
but it's true.
it's so true. There should be no separation in high school. We should all be friends. Maybe we all have different personalities and different interests, but in the end, we should seriously consider accepting each other and knowing that each one of us, we all here, have a story.
Do you think bullying for a teenager, for example, for you when you were 15, or for you, Olivia, or for you, Cassandra, or for you, Matthew, versus when you get older, do you think it's going to stay with you in a different way? Do you think it's changed you to become stronger, worse? What is the impact, do you think, that it has as you get older?
It gives you strength. It gives you awareness that I have gone through this point and I can get through so much more.
So you kind of build who you are and your self-esteem in a weird way.
In a weird
The journey
way.
takes you back to becoming stronger. Okay, do you guys recommend anybody to sort of start a campaign? Do you recommend that people in their community should do something? Do you recommend cyberbullying needs to get more regulated? What is like the one thing that you guys today, seeing bullying, that's gone through all these changes, what do you guys recommend?
I think schools should take it more seriously, because I've seen people go to the office saying, this person tweeted about me, and they're like, well, your name's not in it, so it's not really directed at you. I think that teachers should almost like take a course, like understanding how kids are getting bullied today, and it's a lot different from their generation. So people should be more involved in that way.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like rip the school system or anything, but when you show videos about bullying that are made 10, 15 years ago, that are shown, when the interest in the way that people, how bullying happened was completely different, it's very hard to sort of relate it to something these days because it's so different.
Change.
They need to pick up the changes that have
Yeah.
come. Olivia?
Realistically, like sometimes at school, you're not just getting bullied by other students, sometimes you're getting bullied by teachers. So I feel like they should take that into consideration and recognize that their actions are hurting us as well.
I totally agree. When I was going through this journey, I had a lot of anxiety and depression. That's why I
comes
wrote
with
it.
it, yep.
So I didn't go to school a lot because I was so anxious to even go. And I had teachers actually talk about me when I wasn't there. Like, oh, Brittany's not in class
It
today.
was a discussion.
Yeah, so
Right.
instead of having discussion about your kid, just,
All right. Thank you very much for coming on our show. Thank you for
Thank you.
tuning into this week's episode of #NoFilter. Hope you took lots of great information with you, and check out the book, I Am Not Your Average Teenager.